Welcome to Western New York Energy, located in beautiful Medina, New York. First ethanol plant to operate in the Northeast. I want to thank you for participating in this year's Congressional Biofuels Tour, the virtual edition. We have been asked to brief you on how Western New York Energy and the ethanol industry in general has been impacted by the COVID-19 crisis and how we have responded. By early March, it was becoming clear that gasoline demand was going to drop off dramatically. New York City and downstate was getting hit hard by COVID-19, and the governor was signaling that people needed to stay home and distance themselves. Our fuel blending customers began filling up very quickly and started canceling scheduled loads almost overnight. Western New York Energy had to make a tough decision quickly. Either shut down our plant and start laying off employees or find an alternative market for our alcohol. We were also worried that if we shut down, our farmers would be impacted because they would not have a market to sell their corn into. I saw a news clip where Governor Cuomo stated that New York was going to start producing its own sanitizers. Understanding that most sanitizers are primarily alcohol-based, I started asking questions on where New York was going to get its alcohol. Shortly after I started making inquiries about alcohol for sanitizers, I received a call from Jessica at the RFA asking me what it would take for Western New York Energy to produce alcohol for sanitizers. She had lined up some congressional allies that were willing to help us, especially considering how close we were to the hot spots in downstate New York at the time. Before I knew it, we were working with the TTB and getting the necessary permits in place. They put us in touch with a dedicated person at the TTB to help us fast-track the process. Most all of our dealings with the federal government during that time were positive. They understood the urgent need, and their question was simple: what can we do to help? Very quickly, we were working at the plant to flex our production and making significant investments to adapt our processes for a higher grade of ethanol. We produce 200 proof alcohol every day. The main difference is how we denature it at the end. We just needed to clean up some of the impurities and figure out how to get that alcohol into the hands of local distilleries and other companies that were also flexing their production facilities to produce and bottle sanitizers. During that time, our phones did not stop ringing. Companies telling us about the dire needs that they needed to make sanitizers for their local hospital, healthcare workers, their first responders, their essential workers. It was an exhausting few months, but also energizing and humbling all at the same time. We were creating a new business venture on the fly, but more importantly, we could do something to help our neighbors and community in a time of need like we've never experienced before. I mentioned earlier that most federal agencies were very helpful and all in to help us meet the need of producing more alcohol for sanitizers. There was one exception. The FDA was a challenge from the word go. I understand they were faced with a daunting task as we were. Protect people, but make more alcohol available. They were constantly updating their guidance, and with each update came even more confusion. We made large investments here at Western New York Energy based on early FDA guidance. Today, we are hardly selling any of our alcohol into the New York or U.S. market due to the FDA's early June updated guidance. Rather, we are focused to the north now because Health Canada has been so much more accommodating and transparent. To flex our production in a matter of weeks took all hands on deck. I could not be prouder of how our team stood up to the challenge. Every department of our company had to step up. For example, our process workers and maintenance staff were working long hours out in the elements to make changes to the plant and load product. And our admin staff had to create new scheduling and accounting processes literally on the fly. Our employees also understand how much our local farmers rely on us and how much we rely on them. To that point, we worked with New York Corn and Soybean Grower Association to donate sanitizers to all of our corn growers to protect them and to protect another crop season during this pandemic. I am also very proud to be part of an industry that can pull together when times get tough to get things done. Most of us have grown up in rural and agricultural communities, so we understand that you need to put in hard work along with persistence to get the job done sometimes. It was great to have other ethanol company leaders to bounce ideas off and also lift each other up during these challenging times. We thank you for your continued support of the ethanol industry. We stand ready to face the next challenge, and we look forward to when we can take you on an actual plant tour and show you the great work we are doing to support rural economies, cleaning our air, and now protecting our health. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Colleen Klein, and I'm the Executive Director with the New York Corn and Soybean Growers Association. When COVID-19 hit New York, it was a terrible time of uncertainty. It brought fear for many people, and for our organization, a lot of questions about what we could do to help. Western New York Energy has long been a supporter of New York corn growers, both in providing a reliable market for our growers and with continued long-term support for our membership body. They were one of the first out of the gate to pivot their operation to the production of hand sanitizer. Their willingness to help in a time of need brought light on an otherwise dark time for New Yorkers, and it really just gave me some much needed hope for our people and for our industry. We quickly were able to coordinate with them to distribute sanitizer to our growers to make sure that farmers and their employees had what they needed to stay safe as we headed into planting for 2020. All the way around, the efforts by Western New York Energy strengthen the relationship between our organizations with our growers and with the public. We were left with a positive impact that is going to last for many years to come.
Thanks, Tim, for that great video, and we are so thankful for all that you've done to help during this difficult time. We are very fortunate to have Tim Winters join us to answer some of the questions you might have. Again, if you could just type your questions in the Q&A box down at the bottom, we'll be happy to take those and have Tim answer the questions. I'll go ahead and start. Tim, you touched on how the FDA has actually hindered efforts for the ethanol industry to expand production into hand sanitizer. This is something both you and I have experienced together through this last few months. I would like you to, if you could, explain what needs to be done to allow U.S. ethanol plants to access the U.S. hand sanitizer market, just for the benefit of the participants on the call.
Well, thank you, Jessica. I appreciate the opportunity. Hope everyone enjoys the tour today. I think, in my opinion, I think what the FDA needs to do is understand, first off, that our industry is rooted in local communities, small communities, and we're here not only supporting farmers in that, but we're here supporting our local communities. And all along, our intention when COVID hit was to try and do something to help our neighbors, help our families. And it became very evident that FDA just wasn't giving us the fair treatment that a lot of other agencies were. So, for example, what I mean by that is, I believe as the regulations stand today, OSHA considers one particular impurity common to fermentation, common to food, common to wine, at like 1,000 ppm. FDA, through their different guidances over time, eventually took that down to 50 parts per million, and that's just something that's not realistic in a base ethanol plant. My opinion is that I think they had an opportunity to work with our industry, and we were willing to make investments, but we needed a little guidance. We needed a sounding board to work with from the FDA to say, okay, here's what we can do, here's what we can't, how can we work together to get through this? And unfortunately, that just wasn't how they operated. It wasn't how they issued their guidance, and unfortunately, like I alluded to in the video, it basically took us right out of the U.S. and New York market. We're still getting calls today for the need for alcohol for these sanitizers, but unfortunately, we're just, because of the way the regulation, the emergency condition regulations are, we're just unable to participate on the U.S. side today.
And I would just like to say thanks to a few of the offices on the call that we've gotten a lot of help from a lot of these congressional offices, and I can't thank them enough for all the help that they've given us. So we do have one question, actually a couple questions from the congressional offices. Besides the FDA regulations, are there other barriers such as costs inhibiting the ethanol industry from expanding into this market?
To get into a full USP grade, it is a rather large investment. And not to say that a lot of plants, including Western New York Energy, are not looking at. We are looking at it, is what I'm trying to say. But obviously, it was something we couldn't do in short order when COVID hit. As far as the barriers to that, yes, there's a learning curve. This is all kind of new. The sanitizer market has been there for years, but where is the sanitizer market going to be for the next 12, 24, 36 months? I can't exactly tell you that, but I do think that the need is there. I think that ethanol plants have an opportunity to take advantage of some of those markets. And I just hope that, to your point, Jessica, some of the agencies like the TTB and some of the other congressional folks that have been there, ready, willing, and able, continue to do so as we learn and work with them to fill this need in the future.
So the next question we have, and I think it kind of goes hand in hand with the last one, Tim, is what type of investment would you need to make to get to 50 parts per million? So I'm not sure you could give an exact dollar amount, but maybe you could give an average for what it might take to get to 50 parts per million.
I think I can get it close. We've been looking at a lot of different technologies that we had actually started down this process, down this road even before COVID hit. That investment is at least probably $10, $12 million. We're actually looking at a larger investment right now to give us some other grades possibly, but yeah, it's a rather large investment, and there's a time constraint. This is equipment that just isn't sitting on shelves. It's going to take time to get the equipment, get it built. With all the COVID restrictions, especially in a state like New York, you just don't bring vendors out of state and say, hey, you need to be here tomorrow and bring your equipment. It's you're probably looking at anywhere from 8 to possibly 12 to 18 months to get a system up and running. But under COVID, it's been very challenging to try and do much of anything. But where there's a will, there's a way.
Absolutely, and you guys have done just fantastic work. I can't say enough about everything that Western New York Energy has done to make this happen, and been such a great community partner during this difficult time. I think that's all the questions we have on this. You've touched on a lot, Tim, so thank you so much. That was a wonderful video that you did, and again, like you said, hopefully maybe at some point we can get everybody up and actually take an in-person tour of the plant.
I hope at some point we can get the FDA through a plant.
Absolutely, yes, that would be the best thing to happen.
Agreed. Thank you, Jessica.
Thanks a lot, Tim.